Hello everyone, Bible believers around the world. So this week we're going to be having two brand new lessons coming out about the Hebrew Edomites, because the One West camps have come up with some new spins on their Esau's the white man doctrine. Now at face value, these new spins look like to be a touchdown into the end zone, but once again, in One West fashion, they were out of bounds, so the ball is going backwards. So the first thing we're going to be covering is, in this lesson, we're going to be covering the SLC24A5 gene, or what One Westerners are now claiming is the Esau gene. Now, one thing I would like to say is after these two lessons come out, I plan to take a long break from covering the Hebrew Edomites, because the majority of people who teach or follow the Esau's the white man doctrine are what this verse right here talks about. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. And with that being said, I am of the belief that the Most High Yah wants me to do with this channel what he did for me. Meaning that discovering Esau's not the white man, that is a phony doctrine, all that type of stuff, was just a part of the beginning. It was just a part of the healing process. That was never the be-all, end-all. Because there's so much more for us to learn to be in Yah's covenant and be prepared to live in these end times, like knowing the dietary laws, keeping the holy days, not using profanity and all these other type of things. And all we're doing is learning about one insignificant nation of black people known as the Hebrew Edomites. So although this stuff is very important and it's very powerful to protect us from devil doctrine, it's not the Most High Yah's will for me to only ever talk about this one small nation of Hebrew black people, when there's so many other things that all of, the Gentiles coming into this covenant and Israelites, who are waking up as well need to know. Like I said, dietary laws, holy days, honoring parents, treating your wife good, treating your husband good, how to find a wife, how to find a husband, all these type of things, identifying demonic activity and staying away from it. These are all things that we need to know, but we're too busy focusing on this one nation of black people. All right. And like I said, the One West camps, they're this: ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. So they're under really what seems like a curse of never being able to find the truth. Forever studying, forever learning, but never coming into the truth. So we're not going to stay on Esau forever. Now, if the Most High Yah brings me more sources, we'll come and cover them. Or if the Most High Yah leads me to exposed future twisting that the One West camps do, we'll do that. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing this lesson covering the SLC24A5 doctrine. And then later this week, we're going to be covering the Horites, because another twist that they've been doing recently is saying that the Horites were actually the European Neanderthals. All right. And we're going to be taking a look at that later this week. But after that, we're going to be taking a break from, the sons and daughters of Esau. And if Yah brings something, then I'll come back. But we got other stuff to talk about. Okay, before we go deep into the SLC24A5 with the ChatGPT and the Google, there's a few things I'd like to say. For starters, we know that the doctrine or the idea that the SLC24A5 is the Esau gene and that Esau was the founder of white skin is a lie. And we know it for multiple reasons. For starters, as you saw in the intro, the Hebrew Edomites are black people. And when you look at the ancient depictions of the Hebrew Edomites, they're depicted as Negro-type people, not Caucasoid-type peoples. Not only that, but when you read the birth of Esau in context correctly and use the Hebrew language, you will see that the Bible literally tells us that Esau himself was a man of color. Because when you see what word was translated, Hebrew word was translated to red in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 25, verse 25, it's Atmoni. Atmoni is a reddish brown color. Not only that, but remember, in the big Unmasked the Edomites lesson, we pulled out some old Bible scrolls and saw that the Hebrew word that was written on the page for Esau's redness is the same word that was used to describe the redness of King David. So Esau himself was not a white man. And we look at the ancient depictions and we see that his descendants were not white people. Therefore, we automatically know that the Hebrew Edomites could not have been the founder of white skin because they themselves weren't even white. And it gets even deeper. Right now, we have the Turin mummies of China on the screen. These are Caucasoid mummies that were found in China that predate the birth of Esau. So we had pale-skinned, Caucasian-type people walking the face of the earth before Esau was even born. So Esau can't be the founder of something that already existed before he existed. All right? One other thing I'd like to say before we get started is I'd like to point out a double standard, because there will be people out there who will say stuff like, oh, those Chinese mummies, they're fake. They're made of cardboard. But if you were to show them a mummy that looks just like those mummies, with the only difference being that it's of a Hamitic person, and it's showing what the real ancient Egyptians actually looked like, they'll be like, yep, brother, that's factual right there. I believe that. That's some strong evidence right there. But then you use white Caucasian mummies as of evidence for something else, and now they're fake. You see, so it's a selective thing. It goes back to what we were talking about in the intro. Ever learning, but never able to come to the truth. So you're selective with your sources because you believe in ancient Egyptian mummies, but you don't believe in barbarian Caucasian mummies found in the wilderness of China. It's selective. They literally look the same. The only difference is the so-called race of them, but you don't believe in the white ones, but you believe in the Hamitic African ones. So I just wanted to point out that double standard of people who may say that, oh, the Chinese ones are fake. The only reason you say they're fake is because they don't support what you want to hear. But the Hamite ones do. So that's why you believe it. Okay, so the question that we didn't ask ourselves was, what part of the Middle East does this white skin gene actually come from? And we're about to find out some shocking, explosive information. So this white skin gene originated in Turkey. And look at this. It is bordered by the Black Sea to the north and the Mediterranean Sea to the south. So we know that the sons and daughters of Japhet, during their barbarian period, spent time in the wilderness of Turkey before going into Europe. So right now, we're reading that the white skin originated in Turkey. We know that Japheth started in Turkey. All right? Not only that, but we know that Japheth lived near the Black Sea. The Black Sea's right here. And it's about to get even crazier because guess what? The Caucasus Mountains run through Turkey. That's right, the Caucasus Mountains. Remember, we covered this in the Japheth, True Father of the Caucasoid Peoples lesson. Look at this. 3 sons of Gomer are mentioned. Ashkenaz, whose name seems to compose of Gothic roots, the race of asses, which represents the Germanic and Scandinavian nations not yet separated and inhabiting a limited district to the northeast of the Black Sea. The Black Sea again. Okay, we're now going to be looking at a source written by an Islamic dude, and this is going to be very deep, and he covers the Turkey-Japheth connection. Early history shows the Japhites split into 2 groups. One group split in the region of present-day India and Central Asia. Remember, we talked about that before, the Indian-Caucasian connection, and Central Asia, and the other group in the European theater. Indo-European languages originate from those people groups who migrated throughout Western Eurasia, Europe, the Near East, Anatolia, and the Caucasus. Remember, Anatolia, Turkey, and the Caucasus. You see right here? Let's read that again. Indo-European languages originate from those people groups who migrated throughout Western Eurasia, Europe, the Near East, Anatolia, and the Caucasus. Okay, right here is Turkey. This is where this fair-skinned gene originated. And look just above Turkey, the Lesser Caucasus Mountains. And then up here, we have the Greater Caucasus, Georgia in between there. So we already know about Japheth and the Caucasus Mountains. But now we have this fair-skinned gene originating in Turkey, And look, just like we talked about earlier, the Caucasus Mountains run through Turkey. Another huge bombshell of information is the fact that central Turkey, where this white skin gene originated, is over 1,000 miles away from the land of Edom. Okay, this is going to be huge. So we've talked about the Indian-Caucasian connection in the past, and what we're about to learn right here is linking this gene to the Japhetic peoples. Because what I was not aware of at first, I was unsure about what part of Asia they were talking about, because the sources say that this fair-skinned gene is inside the Europeans and Asia, but I was unaware what Asia they were talking about. After further research, they're talking about this part of Asia. Now, this is key because this is the part of Asia like India and Pakistan that we've talked about in the past and gone into the old books about the Aryan invasion and how the Japhetic Aryans pushed into India and subdued the native peoples there. So now we're seeing that all of the people who actually have this gene are connected to Japheth in one way. And it gets even crazier because the people who are doing the DNA research have discussed the fact that the gene that makes people like the Japanese and like the Chinese pale is not the same gene that makes the Europeans and these people pale. So those people don't have the same gene that these people have. They don't have the Japhetic gene.
Calling Europeans Semites or Esau because of one skin lightening mutation is like calling someone a Levite because they have brown eyes. 2. Why originating in the Middle East proves nothing. This is the biggest sleight of hand, where the SLC24A5 light variant likely arose, somewhere in West Asia, Anatolia, Near East. Long before, Israel existed, Esau existed, Jacob existed, written genealogy existed. The mutation likely appeared 10,000 plus years ago. Esau lived around 2000 BC. That's a gap of at least 6,000 to 8,000 years. So even if Esau had the gene, which we don't know, he did not originate it, did not control its spread, did not uniquely carry it.